Hey everyone, so I want to give you a somewhat comprehensive beta care video here. Sorry about the video being a little bit shaky. I'm using my hands. I accidentally broke my tripod the other day and have not bought a new one yet. Not had the chance to. So let's start off with the tank size, or the tank. So 2.5 gallons is the commonly accepted minimum tank size for a beta. Now of course some people will say that's too small, and other people will say that they keep theirs in smaller tanks and they are just fine, the beta is just fine. But the commonly accepted minimum tank size is 2.5 gallons. I would say if you are going to keep a beta by itself, or even with some ghost shrimp, the sweet point is like a 5-gallon tank. That way the tank size itself, or the dimensions of the tank itself, are not too big. You can still put it almost anywhere, and the weight of it's not too heavy. And then it's still being it's definitely big enough for the beta. Now you don't want to go too crazy on tank size. Shouldn't really be putting them in something too big, say a couple hundred gallons, or something that's just too tall. Reason for that is they do need to breathe air from the surface, and if the tank's too tall, they might have troubles getting from the bottom of the tank to the top of the tank for the air, and that of course can stress them out over time. So one more time though, the most commonly accepted minimum tank size for a beta is 2.5 gallons. Next, I would like to talk about the substrate. So you see here, I just have gravel in this tank. This tank I have sand. So gravel and sand are going to be probably the two most common substrates for a tank. There are also things like marbles. You can do a bare bottom tank as well. But I would recommend, unless you're trying to breed your bait or something like that, to have some sort of substrate. Reason for that is it helps with the biological filtering of your tank. Your substrate can, of course, harbor the good bacteria for your tank, which aids in your biological filtration of the tank. But the type of substrate is up to you. They do say that gravel substrate does one of the best biological filtering, or helps with it. And then next I would like to talk about decorations in your tank. So I would recommend plants, either live or fake, or a combination like I have in here. So we're going to do fake. I would recommend silk over the plastic ones. The reason for that is they are just safer, and to me they also look better. Especially if you go with the cheap fake plastic pointy ones, they can actually do harm to your fish. They can actually cut up your fish. And then of course you can also do live, which is one down there, and that will of course help keep your tank a little bit cleaner, especially compared to fake plants. And those are, well, they're good too. Some things will eat them a little bit as well. Beta usually doesn't. Might peck at them a little bit, but they usually won't. Oh yeah, but they can also help filter your tank a little bit as well, which is always good. I really wouldn't recommend one over the other. I would leave up to personal preference. Again, I like them both, but I do, in my own opinion, actually kind of do like the fake a little bit better than the live. Reason for that is, to me, they're just a little bit easier. Of course, they don't really have any maintenance, other than maybe a little bit of scrubbing every now and then on fake compared to live. But of course, live also does look better. But again, the silk fake, like what I have in here, it looks pretty good in my opinion as well, and you can get some pretty crazy colors like this purple and red. Then other decorations, recommended decorations would be, you can get like a cave. You can do some types of wood. So in here I have the driftwood. This is actually called spider driftwood. And that is, you guys might not be able to notice in here, but the water is a little bit tea colored. That is from the driftwood. Then of course you can get, like, I have a couple of dragon statues and stuff like that that I've had in other tanks and stuff. So there's a whole bunch of different decorations you can put in your tank and kind of make the tank your own, and your beta's own tank. But in the very least, I would recommend getting plants, again, either fake or live. And one last thing I would like to say on the decorations is you can actually get some beta specific, so to speak, decorations. I don't actually have any in my tanks right now, but there are certain things like beta hammocks and beta logs, stuff like that, which are geared towards betas, so to speak. Again, say the beta hammock is just a fake leaf that you stick on the side of the tank with a suction cup, and the beta is supposed to be able to sleep on it. Same thing with the log. So keep your eyes open for those if you want to get something that's more beta specific, again, so to speak. And next, I would like to talk about beta tank mates or beta in a community tank. So there are fish you can get with your beta. Now this depends on the size of your tank. If you only have a 2.5 gallon tank, really the only things I would recommend would be like ghost shrimp and snails. 5 gallons, again, pretty much the same thing, ghost shrimp and snails. You can also possibly do some other types of shrimp, some of the bigger shrimp. I'd say ghost shrimp because they are one of the bigger shrimp, and your beta might not eat them. You go up to like a 10 gallon tank, you can get other fish. For instance, you can get platies. Might be able to do guppies. They're not always recommended, but you might be able to. Things like swordtails, stuff like that. Especially like female of those live bears are usually pretty good tank mates. And again, of course, you can do ghost shrimp and snails in pretty much any tank size, unless it's a super tiny tank. Now, if you have your beta in anything less than 2.5 gallons, which again I wouldn't recommend doing in the first place, but if you do have them in anything less than 2.5 gallons, you probably want to keep away from tank mates. The reason for that is your beta might get very aggressive, tank aggressive, and it might try to eat this shrimp, or might attack the snails and stuff and anything else you put in there, especially if you put other fish in a smaller tank. Actually, for anything really less than around 10 gallons, I wouldn't recommend putting other fish in with the beta. Again, just because they can be more aggressive towards other fish, I would say more than towards snails and shrimp. And a very important thing to keep in mind when putting a beta in with anything else, no matter what it is, even if it is just a snail or a shrimp, is your specific beta's aggressive level, their own personality. Some betas can be kept with anything you put them in with besides other betas, especially if they're male. And then other betas you can't put in with anything else because they will attack them and kill them. Even betas can even kill snails and shrimp. Of course, shrimp, but they can even kill snails though, if they want to. So always keep in mind your own beta's personality, and of course, again, the tank size. So again, if you have a bigger tank, you can get more tank mates for them, but then if you have a smaller tank, you won't be able to get as many and not as wide of a variety of tank mates. And one more point I would like to make about beta tank mates is not only do you have to worry about your beta attacking the other fish, but other fish can attack your beta. Some fish, such as like barbs, will attack their fins on a beta and any other fish you put in with them, possibly. So keep that in mind as well. Make sure that your other fish are not going to eat the beta. I've seen people try to put like Oscars in with a beta or something, and of course the poor beta gets eaten because the people are goofy. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. So it works both ways. Beta might attack the other fish, and the other fish might attack the beta, or even eat each other. Next, I would like to talk about lighting in your beta's tank. So they do not actually need a light. Of course, I would recommend a light. Now, if your beta is in a room where it gets natural light throughout the day, for at least a decent amount of the day, you do not need an extra external light. But now, if you're going to be keeping them in a pitch black room, then you really should have a light on. But again, you do not 100% need a light. Now, if you get a tank kit, most likely these days it will come with an LED light. So, such as this top fin here. See, this one has 6. This is the top fin and Dodge 3-gallon tank. This one has 6 little LEDs there. And next to here, I have the top fin Ease, again 3-gallon tank, and you see this one is a little bit bigger, but only 3 LED lights there. So most tank kits these days, especially the smaller tank kits, will come with lights. And now, if you do have other things in the tank, such as live plants, you will be needing a light just to help with the live plants' growth, and so we do not kill the live plants, of course. But again, not 100% needed, but is highly recommended. And then of course too, it helps you see your betta and your betta's colors and whatnot. Next topic I would like to talk about is the betta tank filter. Now your betta, again, you do not actually need a filter. No, people argue with this, but you don't actually need a filter, but it is very, 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 very highly recommended that you get a filter. Just make sure the filter is not too strong to where it's trying to suck in your poor betta or pushing your poor betta around. Now, a betta's filter does a couple of things here. First, it helps with filtering your water core, so keeping it nice and clean. It also helps to aerate your tank a little bit as well. And then two, it also helps to promote the beneficial bacteria in your tank. And beneficial bacteria will get pretty much across everything that is in your tank. The substrate, decorations, even the glass walls or the aquarium walls. But a lot of it will be in your filter and your filter's compartment, of course. So again, filter is not needed, but it's kind of stupid not to have one, let's say. One of the reasons why it's not 100% needed is because bettas can breathe air from the surface, unlike some fish that need the air being in the water itself, the water itself being aerated from the filter. And you cannot breathe air from the surface. Bettas can breathe surface air, but again, having that filter aerating the water is a lot better and very, very, very beneficial to have. And again, most tank kits will come with a filter of some sort. And again, one more very important time is to make sure your filter is not either sucking in your betta or pushing your betta around, since bettas are not the best of swimmers, and so they can get very stressed out if they're getting pushed around all the time from the filter that is just too strong. Next, I would like to talk about a heater. So I see I have one here, and in my other tank I have one in the back there that is covered in algae. So heater, again, this depends on where you live, I would say, and how hot you keep your the room that your betta's in and whatnot. But most likely you will be needing a heater. Some tank kits come with them, but not too many do. Usually it is an additional purchase. So of course what a heater does is it heats up your tank's water. A betta should be in the mid to high 70s, usually between 75 to 80 or so. And if the water temperature drops too much, say below 70 degrees, especially over an extended period of time, this can stress out your betta and it can cause your betta to stop eating along with other issues, which of course might mean your betta might die, and that's just because of the lack of heat. So if your betta's water's temperature is not between 75 to 80 or somewhere around there, get a heater for them, so that way they're not getting stressed out from it. So again, heater highly recommended unless you live in an area or have a room that's just warm all the time to where the betta does not need it. Another thing the heater does help with too is fluctuation of the water's temperature. So it helps prevent fluctuating water temperature, especially if you live in a colder area. Next, I would like to talk about betta food. So I actually have a couple different ones here among the many that I have. So this is my favorite one. This is New Light Spectrum. This is a small fish formula, super small pellets. And then one of my next favorite betta foods is this one is betta specific. This is a Fluval Bug Bites, the betta formula here. So bettas will eat pretty much anything you throw in the tank unless you get a picky betta. Now, when you're picking out food though, you want it to be for tropical fish or for betta specifically. Now, it does not have to be for betta specifically, but it should be for tropical fish. So you should not be feeding your tropical betta goldfish food or even really marine food, saltwater fish food. You should pretty much be feeding them tropical fish food here of some sort. And I would highly recommend getting pellets, which is what both of these are. Sorry, there we go. Over flakes. Reason for that is flakes, once the flake hits the water, a lot of its nutrients kind of just go away. For a very unscientific way of explaining that, this kind of go away. Whereas the pellet, the nutrition holds together longer, and it's just a lot better to be feeding pellets over flakes. And then I would also recommend actually buying a couple different types of food. So if you have flakes, I would also recommend getting pellets. And even if you mostly feed them pellets, feeding them flakes every now and then is a good thing. This will, it varies up their diet pretty much. That way they're not eating the same thing over and over and over again. As I know people wouldn't like to eat the same thing, the same one specific thing over and over again. So just getting different brands of say pellets for instance, is good. Over just buying one, just say I only have this one, that's why I feed my bit every day. It's just a good thing. I mean, it's not necessary, but it's a good thing to have a couple different types of food, especially if you're going with different varieties of food. For instance, having pellets and then having freeze-dried worms as well. So again, I would just vary up the food. And again, keep with more the tropical foods and do not feed them something like goldfish food or something like that. Since they are tropical fish, they should be getting tropical fish food. And the last thing I would like to touch upon briefly here, I'm not going to show you how to do it, as there are many videos and Google articles you can find online for how to do it, but is doing water changes on your betta. So depending on the size of the tank, with bigger tanks not needing a water change to be done as often, I would recommend at least twice a month. And again, if you have a smaller tank, do even more than that. So, and when you do a water change, you should do between a 10 to 20% water change. You do not want to go too high, as this can mess up your parameters in your tank. And of course, going too low just won't really help clean it too well. And when you do a water change, you should be using a water gravel siphon and kind of going up and down in the gravel. This will help pick up the uneaten food and the poop and whatever else might be lying in the gravel. Get rid of all the waste. So again, I recommend at least twice a month, and you can do more than that. You can pretty much do it as many times as you want. Just don't go too crazy with it, but do at least twice a month. I mean, you can do it once every week if you want to, even twice every week if you really wanted to. Especially if you have a small tank. And again, the bigger the tank, the less often you have to do it, but you should be doing it at least twice a month. Alright guys, hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And I hope you guys have yourselves a good one. See y'all next time. Goodbye.